Something that I really want to talk about is how to winter, or as I used to call it, wintering well. It was something that I learned from a book I read. I was really like researching last year about Denmark and the Nordic countries that tend to be very happy and very interesting. And I learned a lot about the experiences they have, months of darkness and very low sunrise for a long period of time, and their winters are pretty long and cold. And I was curious about how these people tend to be happy, even though the weather is not always favorable. It may be rainy, snowy, cold, and usually that's associated with negativity. Kari Leibowitz, How to Winter. Harness your mindset to thrive on cold, dark, or difficult days. What I found last year is that once I like dressed better for the winter, which I wasn't used to because I live in Nashville, Tennessee, where weather's super inconsistent and not always the same. And our winters tend to be either wintry or not so wintry. And so, with that inconsistency, I never was prepared. I never would buy the proper insulated boots because it was only probably a few days we would have snow. So, I would just wear some extra socks that day versus like always being prepared to layer up. And so, in these different places where people are used to having this weather, they would be prepared with layers and layers of clothes and already like get this stuff out before we get to the season. So we approach it as if it's like a birthday or a celebration. We know that daylight savings time is coming. We know that we're going to fall back and we're going to gain an hour, but we tend to kind of stay up at that time, or at least I do. I tend to stay up late because I'm like, ooh, extra hour. And then you feel kind of crappy the next day. Um, or what I could do based on what Kari talks about, she talks about considering the animals and how they handle the winter seasons, and that things shouldn't operate the same way that they always do. And we kind of forget that these animals either hibernate or go into certain slower methods of processing. Their bodies react and they become a little more sleepy. They rest more. They may hibernate or sleep for days at a time, storing energy after they've already put away, food for the winter. So they're not as active in the same way that animals and things in nature that experience these season changes. The same way we should consider that we shouldn't have to try to force ourselves to operate at the same capacity all year round, because the seasons do affect us in some way. And having that darkness for an hour earlier, which, several hours difference in when the sun sets and when it rises, waking up in the dark, and then by 4 p.m., 5 o'clock, it's already dark again. That does have an effect on us. But if we come and approach it from a different perspective, what this does is we just expect that, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more maybe tired in the evening because it's dark and our bodies are meant to sleep when it's dark. And so we may feel a little bit more fatigued. Instead of seeing that as a negative, she encourages that we look at that as an opportunity for rest, because we tend to be in the summer and the more bright light or well lit times of the year, we tend to be overly active and stay up later, where in the winter we can take that opportunity to see, oh, our body gets a chance to recover, and gives us an opportunity to rest a little more instead of going, because we always feel like we need to do more. And so I found that super helpful, and I hope that that's helpful for someone else. So I'm really looking forward to doing like a daylight savings event, not necessarily making it could be a family thing. That'll be kind of cool maybe in the future if I have a little more time to prep it, but at least changing the lights out, making sure I have blankets set out, making sure I have firewood if I want to hang out the fire pit throughout the year as the weather shifts to cold to warm, having those, making sure I have all my winter clothes. I've already went through and sorted through all of my clothes and pulled out the winter clothes, which is something I used to never do. I would leave all of it in the closet year round, summer clothes, fall clothes, winter clothes. And so now I have the opportunity to do that ahead of time. And so I'm excited for the winter months because it's going to bring Christmas, Thanksgiving, more opportunities for family and bonding, times to slow down so you're not out as much just because it is dark. I take walks after meals and I just hang out in nature and like watch the animals, the ones that are there, and just kind of hang out and just take in what God's created. And so I embraced that last year, and people kind of just looked at me like, you're going outside. And I was like, yeah. And that chill would kind of wake you up too. So if I was sleepy, I would walk out and let that chill hit my face. But I was always well insulated and dressed, so I wasn't cold outside of it hitting my face a little bit. And so I looked forward to that little wake up chill, and that made it kind of exciting. So none of the weather was able to hinder me from taking the walks I wanted to take, because I was well dressed and prepared for 30 and below, or single digit weather, which was cool. And it was very different from how I've seen the winter in the past. Like preparing your favorite soup, hanging out with friends and family, taking that time to read some books, and enjoying the opportunity when it feels later in the evening, but it's only 6 o'clock or 4 o'clock. And you're like, whoa, it feels later. Like, what else could you do? Could you watch a movie earlier? Could you eat dinner earlier? Could you hang out with your family a little bit more? Or just catch up on some rest? So see that as a time of rejuvenation. See it as an opportunity for replenishment, instead of looking at it as a negative. And if you prepare for it, you won't be surprised by it. All right. Hope you guys find that helpful. Talk to you later. Be blessed.